Group number 2. How many of you are in group number 2?
Number 1.
We're all here. Is there anybody who's missing from group 2? Put your hands up now. No, we're all here. Marvellous. Okay, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. About 14 of you. Close enough. That'll do. Okay, so welcome to the second half. Did you have a good photo walk? Did you get moved on by anybody? I mean, 14 of you and 2 models, that's probably quite intimidating for anyone to come and interrupt, so that's always my worry. Which is why I like being in the studio, because I can set my own space up and no one's going to throw me out my studio, which is really nice.
We were close to being run over.
Yeah, well, that's occupational hazard being run over. Again, it doesn't happen in the studio. I'm quite safe. So, quick questions first of all. How many of you have used Flash in any way, shape or form? Okay. Lots of you, that's good. How many of you have actually done portrait work before? Okay, quite a few of you, excellent. Marvellous. Is there any actual professional portrait photographers here?
Professional.
Oh crap, really? It's like the pressure is on me now, isn't it? Oh, I hate that. I love it when it's amateurs, I haven't got a clue what they're doing. It's much easier. Okay, yeah, we're all different. We all learn in different ways, and it doesn't matter how professional you are, I learn all the time, so I'm supposed to be an educator.
Are there any awesome YouTubers here?
No. Do my best, but anyway, that's another thing. Okay, so what we're going to do in this part of the day is I'm going to show you some simple lighting setups using the amazing Meg Biffin. If you're not following her on Instagram, you should be. And once we've done that, I'll then open up a setup so you guys can have a go. So it'll be a couple of demos, you guys have a go, a couple of demos, you guys have a go, a couple of demos, you guys have a go. So the way it works is different to being outside using the daylight as your light source, because we're going to use flash as our light source, which means only one of us at a time can take pictures. So when it comes to taking pictures, I will be really mean and limit you to a very, very small period of time, but you will all get the same time, and trust me, even on the tiny amount of time you have, you will get loads of pictures, because we're using a Meg, and Meg is just brilliant, as you will discover. Easily the best bit of kit I can have here. I've got you down as Kit now.
Brilliant.
We're not filming this bit, are we? Okay, so first picture I'm going to do is actually get Meg to, do you want to sit or stand? How's your legs feeling?
I'll stand for now.
Sure, okay. It's a long day, you sure?
Yeah.
And I ask that because the comfort of your model is absolutely paramount if you're going to work with a model. If they're unhappy, cold, miserable, sore legs or tired, it will show in your pictures. So, you know, you want to lose straight away. So, if Meg's happy, I'm happy. Right, so the first picture I'm going to take, it's all about lighting. So, Scott was talking about using the light that he finds and trying to find the best light. In a studio environment, if the light coming through the windows is absolutely, yes, perfect, thank you, absolutely perfect, use that light. The light we've got here, what have we got in this room? Well, if we were to use the existing light, we would have natural daylight, weird bluish coloured LEDs, and warm tungsten lights, all mixing together. That's going to make life really fun when it comes to finding the right white balance. 3 different light colours, what did you use? So rather than trying to use the existing light, I'm going to try and remove the existing light and make my own. Okay, flashes are really, really powerful. They're considerably more powerful than any room light that we could use, much more powerful than any LED light. And if I set my camera up correctly, I can get rid of the room light and just see the flash. Right, so first things first, let's get my camera set. Now I'm going to try and put some generic settings in that are going to work for everybody's camera. So I'm going to choose a aperture, let's start there. F5.6 is going to be my guess. Oh, by the way, I'm in manual mode, I should have said, M for manual. F5.6 is my aperture. I'm going to go with ISO 200, which is the native ISO for my Olympus camera. And I'm going to go with a shutter speed of 1/160th of a second. Technically, my camera and many of yours can shoot at a faster shutter speed, the flash sync speed. But for the purposes of evening everything out, those are the settings I'm going to use. And they will pop up on the screen as I go through. Okay, so let's get a picture of Meg. No flash at those settings. Okay, and there it is. What do you reckon?
Good.
Good start, isn't it? I'm happy with that. It is evenly illuminated. I like that. Yeah.
No noise in it.
It's a noise-free. You guys are good. Stealing all these jokes. Okay, so what we've proved is that at these camera settings, we have massively underexposed the room light, so we can't see the room light. It's there, it's just so underexposed, it's rendered as black. Probably 5 stops underexposed.
The lens cap is off, right?
Yeah, it's also a really good question. Yeah, the lens cap is off. We had to remove a few lens caps from the last group. Don't joke, it's true. Okay, so we can now add in Flash and create our own setup. So I'm going to start with something really, really basic and simple, and then we'll move on as we go through our hour and a bit together. So, starting off with Flash, I'm using the Pika 200 flashes. Or this one actually is an American version because I work for an American company, but it's exactly the same. Or Godox AD200 flashes, for those that like to know what it is. It is the size and shape of a speed light, and yet it's 3 times as powerful, so it's a lot more power for the same physical size. On top of that, I have a flashbender large, and this was the first flashbender that I bought, and it's brilliant. All sorts of different uses for it. Quick tip, turn it on. There you are, that helps. This one has a built-in LED modelling lamp, which I don't really need, so I can save the planet by turning the modelling light off. Good. Just runs the battery down. Okay, so I'm going to pop that in front of Meg. Okay, we've got a bit of a white ceiling here, so I've got my light pointing straight up. It's going to hit the flash bender and bounce in and like Meg, but a little bit will hit the ceiling and come down as well, so you know, I'm getting quite a nice little bounce. The joys of the flash benders is you can bend them around, so you can actually kind of reshape these things and control the light. But for now, just light in front of Meg will do, fairly flat. Do you want to just take a step away from the background for me, Nick? Thank you very much. How much light? That's my next question. Well, I could do it by trial and error, take a picture and review, and we will do that as we go through, but I like using flash meters. Flash meters are great because they make me look really good. You see a guy using a flash meter and you think, yeah, that person knows what they're doing. They might not, but it looks good, doesn't it? And that's part of the battle when you're working with models who don't know exactly what to do is getting their confidence. Because if they're confident in you as a photographer, they're going to relax a bit more. Meg, on the other hand, knows exactly how bad I am, so I'm slightly doomed on that score. So, but it also gives me accuracy. So I'm shooting at f5.6. This is on C. Oh, I'll be explaining why it's not moving. Okay, f4.5, f6.3, f5.6. Nailed it. Okay, there we are. So the advantage of using a flash meter is I can take a reading without taking test shots. So when I look back at all my pictures, I don't have dozens of brilliant poses from Meg, but terrible exposures. Okay, so let's just do a quick shot, make sure this works. Okay, and bingo, there we are, straight out of camera. This screen that we're looking at here is really far out from where it needs to be, but it'll give us a rough idea. Okay, so that's okay, it looks about the right exposure. I'm kind of happy with that. Just for the fun of it, let's add in a light behind. We've got a second light that's set up from the last group, so we might as well use that. It's got a nice red gel on it. Brilliant, we'll use a red gel. And pop that into a different group. Okay, we'll just put a splash of red behind Meg as she's got a red jacket on. We might as well go with a red gel. And, well, we'll see where it is. Take a test shot, see how it goes. Okay, kind of missed. Over there we go. Boom. Meg's great, she just keeps posing, even on my test shots, she's still posing. That's a test shot, Meg. Save your best stuff. A weak finish, I need you to hang on in there. Okay, so that's fine. So I've got my basic light set, and now I've got my basic light set, I can actually do the shot I want to take, which is my reference picture. So the Colour Checker Passport. Now in an ideal world, we'd all set a custom white balance in our cameras. For the sake of convenience, you can just put it onto the flash, the little lightning bolt symbol. That should get you pretty close, because we're all going to photograph the Colour Checker Passport. So we all go home with the ability either to do a full colour profile, or if nothing else, just use the grey swatches to get the colours right for the rest of the demo. Okay, so that's going to be the first shot we're all going to take. So I'm going to give that to Meg. There we go. Meg's going to hold it in front of her face. And I'm going to take a picture of it. To be honest, she doesn't have to hold it in front of her face. She doesn't even have to be there. But if you paid for a model, you get to work, don't you? Hard, yes. Okay. Notice how I filled the frame, not completely. Doesn't matter how much you fill the frame, as long as you've got it at least about a third of the frame filled with the Colour Checker Passport. I don't go and fill the entire frame because I quite like shots like that. I'm going to do a one-man exhibition of Colour Checker Passports. It's coming soon to a gallery somewhere posh. Of course not. But it's enough. That's enough for me to get a good click on the white balance sheets, swatches rather, and for the software to do a full profile if that's where you want to go. So that's the first thing we're all going to have a go at. So you need a camera. Anybody not brought a camera with them? It's going to be a really bad day if you didn't. Okay, other than your phone. Okay, hopefully we've got some other cameras knocking around as well. So your settings. You need to put your camera into manual mode. You need to put your shutter speed to 160th of a second, or thereabouts. 180th will be fine. F5.6 is your aperture, ISO 200. Anybody stuck on that yet? Brilliant, okay. So we're all going to take a picture of Meg. You need to take maybe 1-2 pictures at the max, and then move on. So we want to rattle through this as quickly as we can so we can get to the good stuff. So all I need you guys to do is form a nice orderly queue along the front here. Don't want to run at once, I'll get squashed. There we are. We've got a technical photo. That's the one we need just so for the rest of the shoot you can then set your colours correctly and they're not going to be waving all over the place. Even if your camera is set to auto white balance, which one of the guys earlier was, and his pictures, the white balance on one picture was one thing and then another thing. You can set the white balance from the colour checker passport or create your own custom profile, both, and then you're good to go for the rest of the session. Right, oh thank you, yeah. Right, so that's the technical bit down, and then we can get on the fun bit. So the flashbenders. Flashbenders are a great little system. I've been using them for a few years, quite a few years, and you don't have to use them just as a single standalone system. You can mix it in with your other lights. So often I will use the flashbender with something else, and my most common way of using it is to actually roll it up and turn it into a little snoot. Okay, so it makes a really handy dandy little snoot and works ever so quickly to do that. So we can use this to create more dramatic light on Meg. So let's make sure it's nice and tight. And we're going to put that a little higher. Make sure I don't put my... I have a habit of putting my flash meter too high. I can't reach it anymore, so trying not to do that today. Okay, so let's get this up high onto Meg. So it's going to come in from the side. It's going to be dramatic side lighting. Let's see how high this light stand. Is that it? Let's use another light stand. I mean, I can still reach it. That's not good. So we'll use another light stand. Whip that off of there. Yeah, thank you very much. They also bounce, these triggers. It's the second time we've dropped it today, isn't it? Thank you. I drop everything. My studio should have soft cotton flooring for the amount of times I've dropped things on it. I think a lot of companies actually send me stuff occasionally just to see if I can break it.
Is it Gavin?
Is it Gavin proof? It should actually print on the box. And certified and tested to destruction by. There we go. So I want the light coming down, so it's going to bring a nice sort of down direction to the light, something quite dramatic and quite exciting as far as the light goes. Now, if I do that, I've got to ask Meg a question. Meg, can you see through the snoot and see the flash?
Yep.
So if Meg can see the flash, then the light will actually reach her. Where I am, I can't see the flash, so less light will reach me. So that's kind of good. I could do this with a flash meter, but because it's a relatively small spot of light, and not everybody's got a meter, let's do this by eye. A bit of trial and error. So, let's see what we get. Same camera settings, nothing's changed. Here we go. So first things first, that looks a little bit bright. This screen, remember, is about stop too bright in my opinion. So I'm going to take the power of the light down a good stop. And we'll see what we get. That's better. And it still looks a bit bright on your screen, but I will live with that. So that's okay, but it is quite a directional light. So we've got hard light coming down here. Hard light means very crisp edge to the shadows, and it's basically split Meg in two. Now Meg actually has amazing hair, as you might have noticed, and I've kind of ruined that, haven't I? Yeah. It's gone. Like, that's what you look like if you have the same hair both sides. I know. Not good. So to fix this, what I'm going to ask Meg to do is turn and look towards the light. She'll look up to the light, but I won't actually ask her to look into the light because it really hurts. Okay, so she's going to look in the direction of the light, but not directly at it. And when I do that, it creates a very different look and feel. So that works much better for me. I like profile type pictures. They work very nicely. So that's okay. The great thing about Meg, is if I just keep snapping away, Meg will just keep on moving, and I can change my focal point, my zoom rather, and I can end up with a load of different pictures. So when we get to have a go with Meg and you're limited with time, Meg will just be doing that. You'll be absolutely fine and have loads of different shots. So that works quite nicely, but can we do something different with the same setup? Yeah, we can. What we can do is the thing that's hardest for us to do, move. Move something. Let's move the light. Let's get this light, shove it around here somewhere, and move it so it is pointing against the background. So now I've got light that's sort of raking down on the background and should give us a different look and feel to how it was before. So where before it was lighting Meg and nothing else, now, you're getting too good at this. Now it's lighting the background and not Meg. Okay, so we end up with a silhouette. Love silhouettes. If you're going to do silhouettes, quick tip, Meg, look at me. That's it. That is a Guess Who person. It's a mystery contestant number 4. That doesn't work. If you're going to do silhouettes, the instinctive thing for people to do is look at the camera. When in fact what you want them to do is not look at the camera, very much so. With Meg with her hair tied back as well works very nicely. You could probably tweak the position of that slightly and get more of her head in the shot. Okay, just a slight raising of the snoot. Gone way too far. Yeah.
I did also step forward when yours was looking.
What? Oh, what have you done there?
Trying to help.
It's never, ever the model's fault. No matter what happens, no matter how much of a complete mess they make of your shot, they never do. It's never, ever, it generally is never the model's fault. Everything that happens when you press the shutter is yours. It's all yours. Remember, no flash, no picture. You're in control of absolutely every part of this picture, including telling Meg what to do. So, not that I ever tell her what to do, I suggest. So, I suggest you turn to the side. There you go. Brilliant. It's probably about the best I'm going to get in the light I've got here and the space I've got, but I'm going to live with that. That's okay. So we could do that quite happily. Other things we could do with exactly the same light setup is, well, move the light, that's one thing, but also move Meg. Meg, do you want to go back up against the background for me? So if I push Meg up against the background, she's going to be back into that light. Again, you're going to look at the light for me. Don't look at the light, look directly towards it. Oh, there we go. And now we have everything working for us. We have light on Meg and we have light on the background. This screen, this close to this screen, is really weird. There's a bit of moire pattern going through here. So the pattern on the background, the weave of the fabric, is giving me a little bit of a moire. That is really simple to remove in post-processing in Lightroom and RAW. And Camera Raw, there is a moire reduction brush. Just brush it over. Job done. 2-second job. Works really well. Or you could actually just try and remove it by changing the position of things. Sometimes you can remove it by changing your zoom. That's worse. That's better. Okay, so sometimes the zoom will make a difference, but if it happens that it is just a couple of seconds inside of post-production. There is another way I can deal with that as well, and that is by moving Meg. So Meg, do you want to come a step forward for me? So if I move Meg forward, she's further away from the background. We know she's going to be a silhouette. So rather than having Meg as a silhouette, we're going to put in a second light. This is on B or D. What's that? It was B. Yeah, they look the same. B. Okay, so I've got a second light in there. This is the big one. This is the XL. And it's also got a little grid on it as well, which I kind of like, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. That allows me to put light on Meg. Again, I could eyeball this, or I could meter it. I don't know where I've got my flash meter. Oh, there it is. That's why it's got red on it. Instead, I'll do it by eyeball and say, yeah, a little bit more exposure required. A little less exposure required. A little less. So I like using flash meters because you do all of this without having to take a single picture. Okay. Somewhere in the middle. I reckon it's about there, but I will double check because you guys are going to take this picture. This will be your first proper setup. F5.6, nailed it. Look at that. So despite how that screen looks, that is the correct exposure. Or at least, there's no such thing as a correct exposure. That is the suggested exposure. Okay, so we're going to form a nice little orderly queue. Photos. So if you remember my first image, which was no flash, no picture. So imagine that the camera doesn't take any photos unless the flash fires. The flash lasts for about 10,000th of a second. So effectively that becomes your shutter speed. The shutter speed is just there to keep the shutter open when the flash fires. So 10,000th of a second shutter speed effective is such a short period of time that you don't have any time to shake the camera, you don't have any time for Meg to move in the slightest to be recorded, and that's what gives you these stunningly sharp pictures. And of course, because we are using flashbenders. That work?
I'm done with work. No, don't worry.
Pete's not
Yeah,
good.
I'm happy. It's fine. I remember where I was sitting.
Well, what if we
I wasn't really paying attention.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
whoops. Not that button. Not that button is. Pause that. And restart.
It's a 160 for a second.
Okay, so let's just make sure this is
Yeah,
still
I'm
working.
doing
So I
it
just
in
pressed all the wrong buttons on my
Yeah.
computer.
So I don't have one seat.
And we'll see what pops on the screen. Yeah, make a quick test shot. Yeah, okay, we're back up and running again. Good. So, for the next little setup, I'm going to make use of just one light. So if you're in the market for just buying one thing, the thing I would buy probably wouldn't be the large flashbender. The one that I use the most is the XL, the extra large. The XL Pro 2, which is this fella right here. So this is just like the standard ones that can fold out flat. Yeah, it would go for more centre for me. Just come way to the background, keep coming. Try not to knock down the shins. Marvellous, there we go. Something like that. Actually, a little further back. Never enough room in this place, is there? Grab my camera and just meter that out. So I'm still shooting at f5.6. F5.6. Let's see, is that B or C? That is B. There we go. F5.6 with this light at that distance gives me a picture that's going to be okay. There we go. It's alright. It's a nice straightforward light. But if I want to get rid of the background, if I want the background to go black, and I might want to do that because I want to add a background effect, I would need to think about either getting the light closer and make use of the inverse square law, which is really complicated for a Friday afternoon, so we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to use the fact that this has a grid on it. So it works really simply. When you look at the surface of this, if you can see white, light will see you. As I turn it around, you'll see less of the white, and eventually you'll see pretty much no white at all, which means pretty much no light will see you. So from the background position, where I am here, I can see the full white of the softbox. But if I turn it around and stand here, I can pretty much see nothing at all. Meg, can you see any of the white there?
Yes.
Okay, can you see it now? Still now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if Meg can see white, then light will reach her. Admittedly less light, but light nonetheless. Yeah, f1.6, that's a lot less light. f3.2, we may max these out. Let's just tilt it a tiny bit. Oh, f9, there we are. Didn't have to be at full power. 7.1, 5. Yeah, that'll do. Always jumps up right in the middle of where you want to be. That's typical. So, same lighting position, same Meg position, same camera position, but this time the background should be a little bit darker. This screen isn't doing me any favours. Yeah, it's really bad. On my screen, it's really black. Okay. Yeah, and that is now way off. Hang on. It's always alive. I'm going to get this. If it kills me, I'm going to get it. Okay. Flash meter. Try that. I could literally guess all day long.
It's fun, isn't it?
But yeah, guessing isn't fun. F16. How did that happen? F8. F5.6. F5.6 there. F1.8 there. Despite what that screen says, this should be black. Okay, here you go, Meg. Yeah, there you go. Black. Thank you. So that's the purpose of it, despite the fact the drawing's live demo has never quite got a plan. You can use that to create the sort of darker background by directing the light where you want it to go and not where you want it to be at all. However, that's not what we're going to do with this. Meg, you're going to go right up against the background. So for our next little setup we're all going to have a go at, I'm going to use this in a way it's probably not really designed to do, but that's exactly what I like to do with kit, and use it in ways that really wasn't intended. So I'm going to get this really in close to Meg, really in close, just kind of, there you go, that's probably roughly where I want it to be. That's it, close and personal with the light stand. So why have I done that? Well, what I'm interested in is the fact that the grid helps to confine the spread of light. So if I photograph the light here, I'm going to put it down to a low power, Meg. Not too bad. Again, this screen shows me a lot more than my screen does. My screen is more or less completely black, but this area goes reasonably dark. Looks a little bit too hot there on this screen, so I can take that down. I'm actually going to take the aperture. So for this one is the only one where we're going to change something. We're going to change the aperture to 8. Better. That's better. So I can have a really dark background, even though in reality it's not that dark at all. But just using the fact that the light is confined within a small area, the grid on the XL Pro stops the light from spreading so wide, and that gives us a lot of control. So as long as we stand here, we can snap away. Here we go. That's great, and I can go, if I've got a zoom lens, I've kind of got a slight advantage over some of you. Okay, boom. Excellent. I can snap away quite happily. So these little bits here, which are just showing up, you can see the strap of the flashbender there. I can deal with really, really quickly inside of post-processing if they're in your shot. Just open them up and use either a black paintbrush or your exposure slider or whatever you want to do, and I can just expose for those areas and remove them really quickly. And whilst I'm here, let's go for the moire reduction as well. Which is moire reduction. I haven't got my glasses on, so I can just remove the moire from that area there as well. Did you see it disappear? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, moire is a nuisance, but it's worth it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we're all going to have a go at that. You know where to stand. You're going to be pretty much kneeling on the sofa over here. Meg wants some glasses. What Meg wants? Meg gets.
It's fine, it's just
Just your eyesight.
Do you want some red ones?
Yeah, let's go for a contact.
Oh wow. Yeah, okay, there we go, kind of fun. That should throw some red light back into her eyes, which really looks quite eerie and weird. So you've got 30 seconds again. So same as before, ask Meg to take the glasses on, take them off, put them on. That's the way to do it, isn't it?
Either or, just let me know.
Yep, okay. So let's have a nice little cue. Okay. Okay, so we've got no time left, so let's do something else. That makes sense. So I'm going to set one last one up for you to have a go at. If you came up at the end of the last session, then you'll know what I'm going to do, because it's the same as the other groups ending. I don't want you to miss out, because that would seem unfair, wouldn't it, really? So, I like to do portraits that have a little bit of a theme to them, a little bit of styling. So, we've got Meg using a My Tin hat. Because, well, we've all got one of those, haven't we? You know, it's like, oh, not the old tin hat, I'm fed up of using that, I've used it so many times. So, we're going to go with actually, before you put it on, something that's already tattooed onto Meg's arm. So this is a very rare chance to take a photograph of something that somebody has tattooed on them already. We didn't know that when we came up with the idea.
No,
it was only afterwards.
funny.
I'm thinking, I'm sure I've seen Meg do something like this before. Going back through the photos, there it is. So Meg is going to be wearing something with a bit more character, and we're going to try and add some props to make this a bit more interesting. I'm going to whiz through the lighting setup. So we're going to do 2 or 3 lights to nail this. if you're doing multiple lights, always do multiple lights, one light at a time. Unless you really know what you're doing, it makes it so much easier to understand what each light's doing if you stop and make each light happen. So the first light is going to be a bit of a backlight. We're going to try and do a sort of a rim lighting effect. Only if I can find my trigger. There it is. A bit of an edge lighting effect. So it's going to be behind Meg, pointing away from the background. And if we remember from earlier, because of the grid on the XL Pro 2, it's going to be turned away from the background, so the background should be dark, which means we can add our own light to create our own look. Right, this is on B. B. Yeah, it's on B. So, I want to go for about f5.6 again, so I will try and nail that exposure, just to see what we get. f3.6, f5, f5.6, so that should be the correct exposure for me. Let's bring that onto the screen and have a little look. Once we take a photograph. And, okay, here we go. It's a quick test shot, turn the camera on, that helps. Retailor it. Okay, Meg, here we go. Okay, and we get that. Okay, so that's not too bad. Kind of happy with that. That gives us a nice amount of light and then shade, but we can still see a little bit of detail on the side of the hat. But it's really in total darkness on that side. So to get out of total darkness, I'm going to add in a second light. So the second light is going to match the first one. It's the same type of light. But just to make it a little bit different, I'm going to add in some colour. So, rogue gels. We're going to use some gels for this. I've got a little red gel on here. These gels are brilliant. They actually shape themselves around speed lights really well. They also come with a little handy-dandy rubber band thing that you can attach. Use ordinary rubber bands. Other rubber bands are available. But this just gives you a nice way of getting it on. Has anybody ever used gels that aren't proper photography gels? Worth a try. So here's my advice. Get yourself your light, put it on full power, and get like, I call them Quality Street gels, because they wrap around Quality Street, and other confectionery is available. Then just fire one flash and watch it permanently melt to the front of your flash. I mean, you never do it again, but for the one, it's quite remarkable. I learnt that the hard way. Yeah, melted a green gel to my flash. So don't do that. But it's an interesting experience to watch your gels melt in front of your eyes. These are heat-sensitive gels, so they're not going to melt. They may deform slightly, but they're not going to melt. So that adds a little bit of colour back there. I'm not sure that's the colour I want, the brightness I want. I want to take that down. So that is on group. Let's put that on A so I can mix them up. A. Okay, and we'll turn that down to a nice low power. Just a little bit of light in there required. There we go. That just puts a little bit of light in without it being too dramatic. And I can probably just change the angle a little bit just to try and get a bit of light on the top of Meg's helmet. Like that. Maybe I'll just take it up a tiny bit just to see. There we go. That just moves the spot a little bit higher up. And I'm kind of happy with that. So that's okay. Then there's the background. Now the background is black. We know it's going to be black because we deliberately lit it so that the light from the key light from the XL2 doesn't hit the background. And that's there for the single reason that then I can choose where the light goes and how bright it is in the background. So let's go back to where we started. We'll use the snoot light up high, pointing down, something like that. And that should just give us a nice little beam of light coming through. Again, we'll put it on a low power. Let's see. Let's go all the way down to the bottom. There we go, that puts that little bit of beam of light back there. And I can control that, so if I wanted more light, I can actually pump the power up and have a much brighter beam of light. Or I can have it lower down. It's entirely up to you, or it's entirely up to me, I guess. I can't change it. But what I think I will do is just change the height. I think that's as high as it goes. Oh no, it goes a bit higher. There we are. That's better. happy with that. Yeah, there we go. That's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pointing towards her eyes. So, light in the back, just a separator, light on the background, little bit of light coming through. One of the lovely things about these flash benders is you can actually adjust them slightly as well. So if I want to, I can actually just spin this around just a little bit, pop that towards the base, and then slightly open it, just a little V shape at the end, and that's going to change how the light comes out. This is why I really enjoy these, because you can actually physically bend the light, shape it to what you want. So I just put a bit more of a wider opening on that. And that should just give me a little bit more of a gentler edge rather than the harsh edge that we had before. I tell you what, pop that for you. Marvellous, thank you. Got it. Around here. Make it focus. There we go. See how that just changed it? Just spread it out slightly, just so we have a softer beam of light, and that just adds a bit more detail down into the otherwise shadowy areas down there. Yeah, that looks terrific. Okay, we got one more prop to make this really work, and as Meg has somebody holding a cigarette on her arm, we're going to get Meg holding a cigarette. Not actually a cigarette, this is a, let's get you a new one. This is a prop cigarette. Yeah, there we go. Available from all good prop shops, because what you don't want to do is use real cigarettes, because that's just not good. Okay, there you go. There's a brand new one. Hand crushed by me. Okay, I'll step on anybody's legs. And the cool photoshoppers out there will have no trouble adding in maybe a little bit of smoke or something like that. Awesome. Okay, so that's what we're going to leave you shooting rather for the last setup. Any questions? Okay, let's see a queue of people. Let's go shooting.